It has never been easier to grow on LinkedIn than right now. So if you've been waiting to start posting, this is your sign. Because over the past 7 years, I've created thousands of pieces of content for myself and other founders. But recently I've noticed there are 5 things that beginners are using to grow way faster than normal. And after applying these strategies, mine and my clients' growth on LinkedIn has exploded. Tens of millions of impressions, tens of thousands of followers, and most importantly, hundreds and hundreds of leads. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the 5 trends that are actively changing the LinkedIn landscape right now so that you can use them yourself and become a niche famous authority figure before you know it. And the very first tip here is to use AI to help create your content. Now, notice how I said help you create, not create completely. Because the last thing you want to be doing is publishing complete AI slop. It's not going to attract anyone worth doing business with. But shunning AI completely will get you left in the content stone age. AI tools like ChatGPT, Bluecast, and others are making it easy for beginners to create professional, engaging content, even without years and years of writing experience. But what does that actually look like in practice? There are a few specific use cases for AI-assisted content creation on LinkedIn. Here are 3 that you could use today after watching this video. The first use case is going to be content ideation. So finding content topics that are going to resonate with your ideal audience so you can grow faster. And the tool I like to use for this is Claude. I have specific prompts that I like to use to do audience research here and figure out what topics could be relevant to write about. So what I'm going to do first is open up Claude. So the prompt is assume you're an expert content marketer with a deep understanding of audience research. I'll tell you my target audience. You'll then give me a bulleted list of 25 pain points that target audience may be currently facing. Reply yes when you understand. So I ask it to assume a very specific role and tell it that it has specific expertise that's going to help me here. And the goal with this first prompt is to understand the pain points that my target audience might be facing so I can come up with content ideas off the back of that. And once it replies yes, I'm going to copy in the demographics of that target audience. So I give it my target audience, industry, in this case I'll use B2B SaaS as an example, category, marketing tech, and then role, founder, and I'll ask it what pain points might they have when it comes to content creation and strategy. Now it gives me a list of 25 pain points, and each of these pain points gives me the potential for several pieces of content. So off of this alone, you should be able to build out a month or half a year or even a year's worth of content. Now, how do you actually get the content ideas? So what I'm going to do is paste in this next prompt. I'm just going to tell it for the first 5 bullet points. I don't want to be here all day going through all 25, but for the first 5 bullet points, give me a list of 5 potential social content ideas that would resonate with this target audience. And now I have a list of 25 potential content ideas. Now, are you going to copy paste these exactly? Maybe, maybe not, but at least you have a starting point now. So if I go to pain point number 1, struggling with content quality while scaling. So the first idea gives me a shared template of your content quality checklist and tracking system. This actually isn't half bad. And I would actually build a post off of that prompt and post it, and it would do quite well. The second one, post snippets comparing good versus poor content examples with analysis. Again, not a bad idea. So if I'm sitting there staring at a blank screen, I don't know what I'm going to write about, using AI to do content ideation can cut that time down a ton. Now, the second use case for AI assisted content creation is actually creating some content and repurposing it in particular. So say you have YouTube videos, blogs, webinars, long form content that exists, but you haven't posted on social. You're sitting on a gold mine, but you just don't know how to use it correctly. And one of the best use cases for AI is taking that content, that long form content, and turning it into a winning social post. I'll show you how I do that with Bluecast right here. So I'm going to log into Bluecast. I'll go over to the YouTube to LinkedIn template. And then what I'm going to do is go over to a YouTube video here. Say I want to use this video. All I do is copy the URL, paste it in here. Bluecast is cool because it allows you to select a writing style. So I have a writing style saved that's based off of my previous LinkedIn content. So the AI already knows my tone of voice. So I will select that. And then there's a bunch of preloaded post formats in here, which again makes the drafting process so much easier. So I'll go over to the tips section, select this one, use formats. Then I have some pre-saved instructions. You can also, again, pre-save instructions. I will select that, click generate, let it do its magic. And there we go. Now I have a draft of a piece of LinkedIn content that I can go and either post directly. This is actually pretty solid, or I might make a few quick edits based on tone of voice. But you see how I went from long form piece of content to LinkedIn post in just about 30 to 60 seconds there. Compare that to spending an hour trying to repurpose that content yourself. Now, the third use case for AI in content creation is writing style calibration. This is a feature that's pretty unique to Bluecast. You can have the AI build out a custom tone of voice. So this is helpful for 2 things. One, if you've already posted content and you know what your tone of voice is, it can model that. So every time you use AI to create content, it sounds like you. And the other use case is if you're a beginner and you don't really have a defined tone of voice yet, one of the best things you could do is look to 2 to 3 other creators that you admire and take elements of their tone of voice and apply it to your writing. And you can do this automatically using this feature. So let me show you an example of this in action. So this post you see up here is in my writing style, which if you look at my LinkedIn content is pretty damn close. All I gotta do to switch the writing style is go to writing style here. I'm gonna use Adam Robinson as an example, click generate again. And you notice how the writing style is just a little bit different. different, right? And I can do it one more time just to show you. Switch to Sahil Bloom, generate, and now we've got a third variation. And look, the goal isn't to hand off all of your writing to AI. It's a totally flawed approach. The goal is to use AI to make your writing workflow faster and higher quality, especially if you're first getting started. So what's the right balance here? If you're writing 5 posts a week, which is pretty standard, I'd recommend writing 2 to 3 posts yourself just to get the writing practice in, and then use AI to assist you in the other half. And integrating AI into your workflow is gonna help you with pretty much everything else in this video. So if you can do that, you're gonna be in a really strong place to write efficiently and effectively. Now, tip number 2 is something that works on most social platforms, but is particularly effective on LinkedIn. The strategy is leveraging trending content and current events. In other words, trend jacking. And this might seem like a no-brainer, but in case you didn't know, piggybacking off of current events and trending topics is a great way to insert yourself into the conversation and get more visibility on your content. So what's the mechanism behind this? Well, people don't know you yet, but they know the brand, founder, current event that you're highlighting. You essentially borrow the credibility of that larger event or larger brand or founder to stop the scroll and get people reading your content. Think of it like a brand collaboration that you don't have to ask for or pay for. So what does this look like in practice? How do you execute trend jacking? Step 1 is research. You're gonna wanna follow industry thought leaders, newsletters, podcasts, stay in the loop on trending information in your category. Now, you can also stay in the loop on more broad pop culture trends, but for B2B in particular, that's not always necessary. I'd rather you stay up to date with industry publications. So for example, if I'm in marketing tech, I might keep up with some marketing podcasts or newsletters and stay in the loop with what's happening there. Just to give you a specific example, I'm in B2B SaaS. A lot of our clients are software companies, so I'm keeping up with podcasts like Technology Brothers, which covers a lot of current events and news in the technology space. Or I'll follow people like Adam Robinson on LinkedIn, who's a big name in the B2B SaaS world. So I know what he's talking about, what the conversations are, and I'm always keeping a finger on the pulse of what's relevant in my category. Now, once you have your news sources and influencers that you want to follow, you want to ideate. This is step 2. So as you're looking through the content that goes live on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, look for interesting nuggets that could turn into content. And there's a few things in particular in B2B that work well here. Acquisitions, product launches, fundraising announcements, industry drama, things that stand out that make you think, oh, that's interesting. If there's a story that takes over your timeline, so you log onto LinkedIn, you're scrolling and you see everyone talking about something. For example, the Jaguar rebrand was a great example of this. Or a while back, I think it was last year when the Barbie movie dropped, every single marketing creator was dropping a think piece breaking down that marketing strategy. But when you see something like that that's taking over the timeline, that's a good sign that you can hop in on that and use trend jacking to get more visibility. Now, to be clear, I don't want you spending hours and hours every single day on these social platforms. You've got a business to run, but commit 20 to 30 minutes daily to scrolling, looking through your newsletters, checking your podcast feed, seeing if there's any notable news that you could give commentary on. Step 3 is going to be create. So once you've got your sources, you've got your idea, you want to actually create the content. So write a post breaking down the current event, but giving your expert opinion along with it. You borrow credibility with the name. Now you've got to pay back the loan with actually giving some sort of unique insight or expert opinion in the post. So typically what I'll do is I'll lead with the hook, mentioning the name or the event that everyone knows about, give some context, and then transition into what I think as an expert in my category. Now, to make sure you got this down, let's look at a few examples. Ramp is a fintech startup that's been on a tear recently when it comes to their marketing. They pretty much built a cult following on Twitter, and I saw that and it fits perfectly into my area of expertise. So B2B marketing done well. So I created this breakdown video in a format that I knew was going to do well on LinkedIn and used Ramp as the hook, and then gave my expert opinion on why I think it did so well. So I borrowed Ramp's credibility and then gave my expert opinion. Another example was from a while back when Airbnb released their winter release. I noticed that the main launch communications came from their founder's account, Brian Chesky's account, and their company page didn't really do anything. And this was a perfect example of the power of founder-led content, which is my area of expertise. So I was like, oh, massive brand does this thing that fits perfectly in alignment with my philosophy on marketing. Let me use that in a piece of LinkedIn content. And the post itself did quite well, got a few hundred likes, 60 plus comments, got reposted a bunch of times. So you see how borrowing credibility and trend jacking can get you into the conversation. Now, that's not all. You can do a more evergreen version of this as well. I call it credibility jacking, not trend jacking. Same idea, except it's not linked to a time-bound event. So the content is evergreen. Let me give you an example so you can see how this looks. So a piece of trend jacking content might be you giving your opinion on a recent acquisition that HubSpot made. Massive company, they make an acquisition, that's news, timely. Let me hop in while the iron is hot. Credibility jacking might be writing a unique post on the founding story of HubSpot. So same idea, again, using the big name to catch attention, except this piece isn't time-bound. That founding story piece is not gonna go out of style next week, so it's more evergreen. Now, timeliness is a multiplier for content performance. And so it goes without saying, but try to stay in the loop on conversations in your industry. Know what news is happening. You don't need to spend all your time on on social, but stay in the loop. It's gonna be a great opportunity to get outsized return on your investment in content. You're gonna get tons of engagement and you will grow, guaranteed. Speaking of resources that are relevant and help you grow on LinkedIn, forgive the shameless plug, but I've got a newsletter called Social Files where I share everything I know about social and LinkedIn growth. I write about what's working now, give in-depth case studies and deep dives on content strategy and lead generation. I got two promises to you. One, it's free, and two, every Monday I'll send you a content playbook that you could use immediately. So click the link in the description and go to readsocialfiles.com to subscribe and join over 15,000 other B2B founders and marketers who want to grow on LinkedIn. Now, tip number 3 is perfect for new posters because it doesn't require any crazy case studies or anything overly optimized for LinkedIn. And that is to post authentic storytelling content. Storytelling content is great for a few reasons. Users on LinkedIn are used to seeing generic fluff, white papers, and boring content that doesn't really stand out or grab attention. It's inauthentic. But if you can come in and be authentically yourself and tell a compelling story based on your unique experience and expertise, people in your industry are gonna eat that content up. They're gonna engage with it, react with it, and you're gonna grow very quickly as a result. And the best part about storytelling content is it's not reserved for the LinkedIn elite. Anyone can do it. Every single one of us has our own unique experiences that translate into relevant content. In other words, your stories are your moat. Nobody can copy it, nobody can steal it. Especially for founders, you don't just spawn into the world and start a B2B company. There was some sort of career journey or experience that led you to this point. A lot of times you were your own ICP in a past life. So you have those experiences and that inherent credibility that allows you to create content that's like a magnet for those people. For example, if you launch a startup in the sales tech category, you might have been a CRO at a unicorn startup or something like that. A real example here, Austin Hughes founded Unify. Prior to that, he was at Ramp where he ran growth product, and a lot of what he was doing was running outbound for Ramp. And now he's building Unify, which is a product in the go-to-market category. There's perfect alignment between that experience and the product he's building now, so he can post about his previous stories. Great content market fit. Now, let me give you a few tangible examples of stories that you could use in your content today. There's 3 of them I really like. The first one is gonna be your origin story. Every time I post this for a client, it crushes. We typically do this as the first post when someone starts publishing content on LinkedIn because it's a great way to introduce yourself. People love to hear the backstory, and usually there's some sort of adversity or some sort of light bulb moment that is really compelling, again, that's unique to you. So this post from Jesse, founder of Decagon, is a great example of an origin story done well. He talks about how he started his company and went on to raise $100 million. And if you look at the performance, it did quite well. So over 700 likes, 43 comments, reposted 7 times. So those origin story posts tend to resonate quite well with people on LinkedIn. Second type of story I love is the oh shit moment. So what was a moment of adversity that you went through as you were building your company? Or it could be early in your career, but some sort of moment that you went through. Because in any compelling story, the hero never goes from point A to point B uncontested without running into any issues. There's always some sort of adversity, and the adversity makes the story interesting. So if you're the hero in this story, you went through some sort of adversity to get to where you are. And that makes for compelling content. Now, you don't want to share stuff you're going through right now. You want to share stuff that you've gone through and gotten through and learned from. I call this sharing open wounds versus sharing scars. You want to share scars because that's already in the past. You don't really want to share open wounds because it can come across as complaining, or it might be sensitive information that you don't want the public knowing about just yet. Here's an example I love from Nathan from Freckle. They had just announced their seed round, and he did this post as a follow-up that was talking about the story of how the fundraise almost didn't even happen. So he gives the timeline of events that led up to it. I also like how he included this scrappy image here. And again, the content did quite well. So over 150 likes, 20 comments, pretty solid engagement for the size of the account. And this is a great example of sharing a scar, not an open wound. So they made the fundraise. So now he can share the learnings from that. The third type of storytelling content that every founder should do is customer conversations. These are endless. You're always having conversations with prospects. And in these conversations are interesting insights or experiences that can translate into a LinkedIn post. Typically, these are going to be the things that sort of catch you off guard or maybe annoy you a bit, or myths that you have to dispel or objections you have to overcome. But customer conversations are a renewable resource. You're having these conversations all the time. So the material for this type of content is literally endless. Like your origin story, you might only be able to post once every 2 or 3 months. You can post it multiple times, but if you're posting it every week, it's like, come on, dude, relax. But customer conversations, there are new ones happening every single day. Here's an example I love from Adam that goes, last night I had a chat with a SaaS founder who raised $60 million for a startup. The latest round was a $40 million Series B at a $400 million valuation at the end of 2021. He thought he was on the unicorn path, but now it's a VC nightmare. So customer conversation, a few few other fantastic levers in this hook, using very specific numbers like $60 million startup, $40 million Series B, $400 million valuation. Those specific monetary features crush, kind of outside the topic for this video, but just to highlight that. But I'm sure Adam is having these conversations all the time. So anytime he has a unique one, he can turn that into content. So if you can get decent at storytelling in these formats and truly be authentic, you're gonna grow on LinkedIn pretty much on easy mode. Okay, this tip might seem simple on the surface, but stay with me here. This idea is genuinely one of the most important factors in your growth on LinkedIn and your ability to generate revenue from it and build a business. The idea, consistency. Before you get upset, you're like, it's so obvious. Hear me out. Consistency leads to compounding. And if you're only posting once every few weeks or even once a week, that's not gonna cut it. You're just gonna post into the void. You're gonna wake up 90 days later, look at your analytics and be like, oh, Tommy, LinkedIn doesn't work. It's like, no, you just weren't consistent enough. You set yourself up for failure. And that'd be a shame because it's genuinely pretty easy to grow on LinkedIn right now. The best founders on LinkedIn are ruthlessly consistent. Look at Austin Hughes, Adam Robinson, Dave Gerhardt, the list goes on, but they all post pretty much every day, at least 5 times a week. So what's the growth mechanism behind consistency? So how does it actually lead to faster growth? Because I promise this isn't just motivational mindset fluff. Number 1 is skill building. Think of content production like trying to get into shape. If you're just going to the gym once a week or once every 2 weeks, you're not gonna get the body you're after. You're not gonna get the six pack. You're not gonna get the strength. Really, you wanna be in the gym 3 to 5 times per week. Content is the exact same. If you're posting once a week, it's not gonna cut it. You wanna be in there 3 to 5 times a week, even as far as 7 days a week. Because every time you write a piece of content, you get better at it. You build the skill. And if you are a beginner just starting to post, or even if you've posted for a bit, but you wanna level up your skill set, it takes that frequency. Now, second is data collection. Every single piece of content you post is a data point. It's an opportunity to test what works, what hooks stop the scroll, what CTAs convert into email subs, what media format resonates the most. Every post is an opportunity to figure that out because you don't know when you're first getting started. And 1 post per week is 4 data points per month. Not much. 5 posts per week, about 20 data points per month. That's like 5 times the amount of data points. In which situation do you think you're gonna learn faster and create better content at a faster rate? Now, the third piece here is hit rate. As you start to collect those data points, you start to understand what works and what doesn't. When you first start, you're kind of throwing darts blindfolded. But as you start gathering these data points, you might see, oh, this hook format works really well. Or, oh, posts with in real life photos tend to perform better than posts that are text only. Or, oh, short form video is really resonating well for me. And as you start to understand those levers, you can just pull those levers in every single piece of content. And that baseline performance of content is going to go up and up and up and up. So content doesn't have to be as random anymore and you can grow faster. And this is how you go parabolic with your LinkedIn growth. And fourth here, consumer mindshare. If you're on the timeline more often, people are seeing you and you're in their mind. Marketing is a war for the attention of your buyers. Get in front of them. Don't leave it to chance. All you really need to stay consistent is 1, follow what I showed you in this video, and 2, aim to post 5 times per week. If you're just starting out, that's the cadence that I would recommend. You could get away with 3. Would I recommend it? Not really. Try to aim for 5. And there are a few ways to human proof this. 1, just commit to it. If you can't commit to posting for 90 days, you don't deserve having a LinkedIn audience. I'm sorry, it's harsh, but it's the truth. 2 is the calendar method. At the end of every week, go back and review your calendar. Like I mentioned earlier, those customer conversations are great opportunities for content. So you want to review your calendar every single week and take note of any interesting conversations, meetings, events that can turn into content. These all exist every single week, but a lot of founders don't go back and actually look intentionally, so it just slips into the void and a potential idea for a banger piece of content just evaporates. Third is build a team to support your content creation or use AI like we talked about earlier to assist your content output. If you're super early stage and bootstrapped and you can't hire yet, I get it, just use AI to assist your workflow. If you've raised a seed round or a Series A or a more mature company, build a team around your content, whether it's internally or an external agency. I'm obviously a little bit biased because I run an agency, but even if you want to build it out internally, go for it. But have an engine built around your content output. You don't want to leave it to chance. You're not an artist. You can't afford to wait for lightning to strike and for you to have that inspiration. You need a predictable way to produce content, even if your calendar fills up. Now, I wanted to save the best for last because this is a brand new feature on the platform that's changed the game recently, and that's LinkedIn Video. LinkedIn recently rolled out their TikTok-like video feed. And as with most social media platforms, they heavily incentivize new features because they want to get people to use them. There's an underserved market for video content on LinkedIn, and if you can film half decent stuff, you're well positioned to go on a generational run here. LinkedIn in particular is interesting for video because the content baseline is so low. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok have sophisticated quite a bit to the point where you can't really just show up and pop off anymore. On LinkedIn, most video content is still horrendous. So if you have genuine expertise and you can speak well on camera, you're going to be in a great spot to do well with video on the platform. So how do you actually execute on this? Just record 30 to 90 second vertical videos. The simplest format to start with is talking head educational videos where you share something in your unique experience or expertise that's valuable to the user on LinkedIn. You don't need to go crazy and do a bunch of skits or meme content or day in the life vlogs, nothing like that. Just share your expertise. That's why people are on LinkedIn. And more good news, simple editing tends to work best. You don't need any of the cracked out ADHD retention editing that's present on a lot of these other platforms. If anything, simpler editing tends to signal sophistication to the LinkedIn user. Think about who you're selling to. Sure, Gen Z is becoming more and more of an influence in the workforce, but a lot of the buyers at this point in time are still older. They don't want to have a seizure because of the editing graphics you use in your LinkedIn video. Just keep it simple. And mobile editing tools like CapCut make this so easy. So if you're editing your own content, I just use that. You can use Premiere Pro, but it's kind of overkill in my opinion for simple talking head videos. Your preference though. Now, just quick tip here, make sure you add subtitles to your videos to ensure accessibility and better retention, right? Because a lot of people are watching LinkedIn content with their volume off. So you want to make sure that even if they're scrolling while they're on the subway or while they're maybe sitting in a Zoom call and not paying attention, I've never done that before, I promise, they can actually still watch your LinkedIn content. Now, here's an example that you can see of a talking head video. Notice how it's quite simple. The only edits I'm making here are one, the captions, and then two, the occasional jump cut or zoom in. I'm not adding a bunch of B-roll. I'm not adding a bunch of animations or anything crazy. It's quite simple. And this video got over 300,000 impressions. You see how this works? Now, one hack for LinkedIn video that not enough people are talking about, take strategies that work on other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and apply them to LinkedIn. Because of the difference in content quality, remember I talked about how the content baseline on LinkedIn is lower. Because of that difference, there's an arbitrage to be taken advantage of here. If you can create Instagram quality vertical video content on LinkedIn, you're gonna pop. So take advantage from Instagram hooks, formats, editing styles. Again, you don't need the cracked out ADHD retention editing, but if you can apply a little bit there, it'll work really well on LinkedIn. So here's an example. Green screen videos have been working really well on Instagram lately, and taking that and applying it to LinkedIn. So here's a video that I did that follows this format. I did a content highlight on Beehive and their content strategy, and used that sort of Instagram green screen style of content for LinkedIn, and it performed quite well. One important caveat here, video is very effective, but it's not a silver bullet. The metrics on LinkedIn video are still a little bit suspect. The view to engagement ratio is just not normal. So when you get a 1 million view video on Instagram, for example, that's gonna translate into a ton of new followers. The engagement on the post very clearly shows that, hey, like this was served to a lot of relevant people. On LinkedIn, a lot of times what can happen right now is it gets a ton of views, a ton of impressions, but the engagement doesn't quite match it. So even in this example, the ramp one that I showed you, it got 300 something thousand views, but only less than 200 likes, which is good for LinkedIn, but that view to engagement ratio is kind of suspect. So it's hard to tell what's happening here, but it seems that LinkedIn serves those mega viral videos to irrelevant audiences at times. So it's something to consider. Now, that said, two things are true. One, it seems that LinkedIn wants to push video. So assuming they want to try to keep up with Instagram and TikTok and these other social platforms, even Twitter is doing more video right now, or X, or whatever you're calling it at this point. If they want to keep up, they're either going to try to take a different approach entirely, which I wouldn't be entirely opposed to, or they're going to try to make their video algorithm better and better and better. Now, second, regardless of the algorithm arbitrage, video content is still a very powerful format. Even if it wasn't getting boosted by LinkedIn right now, I would still recommend publishing video content. Video is a fast way to build trust with your target customer. They see you and hear you in a way that can't be accomplished via written content alone. So for those reasons, I'm still bullish on the medium. Just by distilling your experience into compelling video, you're cementing yourself as an authority figure in your niche, which is arguably one of the hardest but most important things you can do on a platform like LinkedIn. So I hope by now you've jotted down some notes, you're ready to implement the good stuff, but we didn't pay a ton of specific attention to lead gen in this video. And if you're going to use LinkedIn to do any sort of outbound or want to generate meetings and demos booked from LinkedIn, but don't know where to start, click here to watch this next video where I walk you through my entire lead generation formula and show you exactly how I keep a full wait list at all times and never run out of leads.